Welcome to Husker Storm blog. This is week 9. I can't believe it's already week 9. The national title race has narrowed. It didn't really narrow after last week. Expect it to narrow this week though. Reviewing the week 8 games. We had Oregon showing their dominance in the Pac-12 on the road against ASU. Ohio State lost Braxton Miller but won in overtime. LSU overcame a deficit and beat Johnny. The Gators won big with not even 200 yards of offense, but put up 44 points. Bama rolled the Vols. Notre Dame escaped a trap game. Michigan finally defeated the Spartans. Penn State demolished the Hawkeyes. And Kansas State rolled an overrated, overhyped Mountaineer team that's still ranked for some odd reason. Texas bounced back against Baylor. Texas Tech defeated TCU in the most thrilling game. And Taylor Martinez was clutch on the road for Nebraska and found a way to overcome self-inflicted wounds and avenge the Wildcats. I want to talk about something quickly, the Pac-12. Last year, the Pac-12 was awful. There's no question. It was Oregon, Stanford, USC, and nobody. The rest of it was like 6-6 teams that were really mediocre. And this year they're putting together. You still got Oregon. You still got Stanford. Stanford's not as good. You got USC. They're not as good. Oregon may be better. They are better defensively. You got Oregon State. You've got UCLA. You've got, a lot of teams. ASU is better this year. U of A is better. Cal's not as good, but overall the depth is really good. And with a good bowl season, we could see them jump the Big 12 potentially. Right now they're just slightly behind, but the Big 12 did have a super weak non-conference, the weakest of any of the power conferences. Top 25. Hey, got some shifting, especially up top. I put Florida at number 1. I go by resume more than anything. I thought they played very well considering their schedule. Number 2, I have Bama. 3, I have Kansas State. 4, I have Oregon. 5, I got LSU. They're my number 1 loss team. They're starting to put it together. 6, I got Oklahoma. 7, I got Notre Dame. 8, I got Oregon State. 9, I got Ohio State. 10, I got USC. So we've got 6, 7 going at it this week in Oklahoma, Notre Dame. 11, I got South Carolina. 12, I got Florida State. 13, I got Mississippi State. 14, Texas Tech. 15, Rutgers. 16, Louisville. 17, Georgia. I think Georgia's way overrated. They're not very good this year. Not as good as they were last year. And it could show this week against Florida. I got 18 Clemson, 19 Michigan, 20 Stanford, 21 Texas A&M, and now I'm going to put in my Big Ten teams here because I don't think Boise State deserves to be ranked. Until I don't think Texas deserves to be ranked or West Virginia. So I've got Nebraska at 22, 23 Wisconsin, 24 Ohio, and then Penn State does get in there right now. I think they're playing pretty well. So my BCS bowl predictions are, of course, going to change because all the crap that we had happen this last week. Good shake up there. Rose Bowl, it was Michigan last week. The week before that, it was Nebraska. But I have Nebraska beating Michigan this week, which I like Wisconsin a rematch. You look at the rematches previously, LSU, Alabama. It went to the person who lost the first game, Wisconsin, Michigan State. That just seems how it always works, and I like Wisconsin to avenge their loss against Nebraska in a thrilling game. Wisconsin versus USC, the Fiesta Bowl, K-State winning the Big 12, and they'll play Notre Dame. The Sugar Bowl, I have Florida versus Oklahoma. Orange Bowl, I got Florida State versus Rutgers, ACC champ versus Big East champ, National Championship, Alabama versus Oregon. And my Heisman, Colin Klein's obviously number 1 in most people's, and he should be. Number 2, I have Monte Teo. 3, Braxton Miller. He fell a little bit because he got injured, but he's still going to be in there. Dark horses, let's start talking about them. Seth Doege, Texas Tech. His numbers are decent. Not as good as Geno Smith's, but I can't put Geno Smith in there considering they scored a whopping 21 points offensively in 2 games against Texas Tech and Kansas State. And I think that's just going to continue. When they play Oklahoma, they're probably going to get blown out too. And A.J. McCarron, now, he had a great game against Tennessee, but if you look at some of the balls he threw, they weren't that special. But he's got the best quarterback rating in the country, and they're going to start unleashing him a little bit more week by week. UCLA at ASU. Could this decide the South? Possibly, but you got to think USC is going to have a say in this one. Brett Hundley's toughest road game thus far, actually I think it was his only one, against Cal. He threw 4 picks. This ASU team is a lot better than Cal. They went on the road and beat Cal by 10 points. Jonathan Franklin's going to need to take off, going to need to have a big game, especially with Will Sutton out in the middle of that rush defense for ASU. He's going to need to have a big game and take some pressure off of Brett Hundley here. Coming off the bye, some people might think UCLA is a little more prepared, but I think coming off the loss, ASU is going to be a little pissed off, especially since they got blown out. I like Todd Graham to get his team to bounce back. It's going to be a great game, tight as usual, and it's going to come down to special teams like this game always does each year. I think the Sun Devils win 28-27. Could go to overtime. Cincy at Louisville. And 2 of the best Big East teams score off here last week since he lost to Toledo, like I called. Teddy Bridgewater is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country. Could get himself in the Heisman if they go 12-0. I don't think he's going to win it. He's not putting up crazy numbers, but I think he's going to outduel Munchie Legault here and keep his team's BCS hopes alive, 27-24. Michigan at Nebraska. This will decide the Legend Division. This is pretty much the Legend Division championship right here. If Nebraska wins, it's still up in the air. Nebraska could fall to Penn State, lose to Michigan State on the road, and then Michigan wins out, beats Ohio State on the road, and Michigan would therefore only have 1 loss. If Michigan wins, it's pretty much over. Michigan's going to take it. I have a video for this one. I've got Nebraska 30-28. If you want to know more about that, check out the video. It's going to be somewhere on the screen here. Texas Tech at K-State. 2 teams that blew out the Mountaineers. And, Kansas State, really, they've gotten through the gauntlet of their schedule. Now they've got a bunch of quality teams, good teams, in TCU, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Texas, some quality teams that they're going to have to beat if they want to go undefeated. This is a battle of 2 potential Heisman candidates, one who's the favorite, one who's a dark horse. I think Colin Klein's going to keep their magical season alive. I have this one going to overtime. Colin Klein scores 4 touchdowns, and this is a much watch as Kansas State wins this one 34-31 in OT. Florida at Georgia. Does Florida's gauntlet ever end? I mean, first they go to Texas A&M, then they go to Tennessee, then I think they had a bye, and then they went to LSU, or they had LSU come to them, and then they had South Carolina, and then they had Vanderbilt, and then they had South Carolina come to them. I mean, 4 of those 5 games are challenging games, and they won all of them, and a couple of them pretty easily. The Bulldogs haven't been very impressive, and they're a product of a weak non-conference and conference schedule. They're going to have their hands full, as they had their hands full against Tennessee and Kentucky. And I think the Gators are going to make another statement here, take care of their final SEC challenge, and they win this one easy, 27-16. USC at U of A. This is a game USC can't afford to lose. You can't get a second loss in the Pac-12. And this is a game, frankly, they could lose. They face a high-scoring, high-powered offense that can put up points and put them up quick. The Trojans need to unleash Matt Barkley here. They can't hold him back. They started to last week, and he had a great game, 6 touchdowns. I think they do unleash him here, a vulnerable defense that can be exposed through the air, the Wildcats. And I think Matt goes for 305 touchdowns, and the Trojans escape Tucson 49-38. Notre Dame at OU. The Irish undefeated season stops here. This could be the lone loss for them. They're facing what I believe is the nation's hottest team. OU has completely dismantled its last 2 teams in Texas Tech and Texas, and that Texas Tech team is looking a lot better each week they play. Their offense has found a groove, and their defense has played very well under Mike Stoops. This is the best all-around team the Irish will face all year, and the Sooners' offense will cause fits for the suspect secondary of the Irish. It's yet to face a good passing offense. Look for a huge day from Landry Jones. As the Sooners find the end zone multiple times, which usually doesn't happen against the Irish. The Irish will have some success on the ground, but won't be able to put up enough points to overcome the Sooners' great offensive output in this one. 30-17, Oklahoma. Mississippi State at Alabama. One will be undefeated, and the other will no longer be undefeated in this one, as the two undefeated square off. The Bulldogs have played nobody thus far, and they played pretty well though. But they're only going to be able to keep this one close for a quarter. A.J. McCarron goes off again, and puts himself in the Heisman for real. 42-17, the Tide roll. Oregon State at Washington. The Beavers got Sean Mannion back here. They're the surprise team of the year. At some point in time, they're going to lose. This is a Husky team that's very inconsistent, and it could struggle to get 6 wins. They got an opportunity to get an upset here at home. They already upset Stanford, and they are facing a team that struggles offensively. So if they can play well enough defensively, and if Keith Price can finally make some plays in a big game, they could have an opportunity. But I don't think Mike Riley's magical run ends here. It's almost over, but this is not the week. I think the Beavers hit Keith Price early and often. 20-13, Oregon State. Michigan State at Wisconsin. Another loss for the Spartans will put them at 4-5 and put them in complete panic mode. Well, they'll be in panic mode after this one. Badgers win an ugly game. It's going to be ugly. Michigan State's going to make all their teams play ugly to beat them. They play good defense. 21-16, Badgers win this one. Ohio State at Penn State. I think this is Ohio State's first loss. Mentally, will Braxton Miller be prepared? Physically, he might be ready, but mentally, it's the question for me. And the Nittany Lions are hot. Their offense is going to impose its will on a pretty weak secondary. And I think they hold Braxton Miller in check enough. 27-13 Lions. TCU at Okie State. The Cowboys get lumped back, and I think they're going to be playing Westlaw in this one after they lost Blair Walsh. He's out for the year. Some tough injuries there, but they can throw in a quarterback, and they'll turn around and play well in what seems to be a pretty quarterback-friendly offense. And they got some good quarterbacks there at Oklahoma State. This is a talented TCU team coming to their house, but I think the young quarterback's going to struggle on the road here. This TCU team is better than the other new conference member in West Virginia, I believe so. I think TCU is better than West Virginia. They play better defense, and their offense can actually score against the likes of Texas Tech. And potentially, they haven't played Kansas State yet, but I think they could score a little bit on them, even without Casey Packhall. 42-38, though. I think the Cowboys get this one behind their home crowd. Thanks for watching. Check out my Nebraska-Michigan predictions. Check back next week for Week 10. And go Big Red.